So, this week is Parshas Vayera, and we had, obviously, at the end of last week's Parsha, Avram Avinu has a bris milah, circumcision. He's told that he's going to have the son Yitzchak. There is a very, very important association here between these two events. Between Avram Avinu having the bris milah. No, it's Chelek Aleph. That's probably from last year. And that is that Avram Avinu was told that he's going to have the son Yitzchak now, after having had the bris milah. It's not obviously coincidental. There is no coincidence. It's also not just, oh wow, you did something amazing, you had the sacrifice, now you get a reward, because Avram and Sarah desperately wanted to have this child. But there's something here that was necessary. It was necessary for, It was necessary for Yitzchak to be conceived, not just born, but conceived after Avram Avinu had a bris milah. And in the blessings we say at a bris milah, right? And now, people often will translate bris milah as circumcision, or just bris as circumcision. Bris does not mean circumcision. Bris means covenant. Milah means circumcision. Bris milah is a covenant in the form of circumcision, but it's first and foremost a covenant between us and Hashem. Circumcision is the form that it takes, but it's not a medical procedure, and it's not primarily about the circumcision. It's about the covenant. At a bris milah, in the blessings we say Asher Kiddush Yedid Mi Beten, who sanctified one who is dear. Mi Beten literally means from the tummy, from the abdomen, i.e. from the womb, from the uterus, referring to Yitzchak Avinu, who was Kiddush, who was sanctified already in the womb. Why? Because he was conceived once Avram Avinu, his father, already was circumcised, as opposed to Avram Avinu. So there was something very special about Yitzchak that was not true of Avram Avinu. And that was Avram Avinu was not conceived by a father who was circumcised. Yitzchak was. And it was important and necessary for Yitzchak to be conceived post-circumcision. And that's why this was the order, that Avram Avinu had his bris milah, his covenant of circumcision. Then Yitzchak was conceived, and then Yitzchak was born. The question is why? What is it about? Now we understand, obviously we just said that there is value in being conceived post-circumcision. There's something special and beautiful about that he had this sanctity and this holiness from the moment that he came into being as a single cell. Already there was this special holiness there, because half of this cell originated post-circumcision. But why did this have to be about Yitzchak? Why didn't Hashem arrange for that to happen to Avram Avinu? And why Yitzchak and not Yaakov? What is it about Yitzchak specifically that Hashem made Yitzchak not be conceived until after Avram Avinu had this circumcision? Or more importantly, this covenant in the form of circumcision? Well, obviously what this is going to boil down to is understanding something special that is unique to Yitzchak Avinu, and then understanding the association and relationship between that thing about Yitzchak that is special and having this special sanctity of being born post-circumcision. So, in general, right, we have the three forefathers. Forefathers is F-O-R-E, not F-O-U-R. There are not four fathers. There are three forefathers. Fore meaning early or before. Forefathers is basically the old-fashioned way of saying OGs. So they were the OG. Avraham Avinu is the original Jewish patriarch, Sof G, right? So Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And the sages tell us that, and we see this a lot in Kabbalah, that there is this, on one hand, all of them together, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are referred to as the fathers, the Avos. And it's specifically them. And it says that Ein Korin Avos Ela L'Shlosha. There are only three who are referred to as the patriarchs. Now that makes a lot of sense because they are the only three men who were patriarchs of all of the Jewish people. After Yaakov, he had 12 sons who were the 12 tribes. None of them is a patriarch of all of the Jewish people. So there are only three. Interestingly, this does not apply to the imahos, to the matriarchs. We refer to Rachel and Leah both as being matriarchs. There are four matriarchs, even though Rachel and Leah combined are not even the matriarchs of all of the tribes, let alone each of them individually. It's a conversation for another time. But when we say the forefathers, the patriarchs, it's these three. And there are a lot of very special and deep and powerful and beautiful things that we know about them, all three of them collectively as a category of the forefathers. But within that category, and this is always the case, each of them had a very individual character and an individual specific role to play. So Avraham Avinu is always associated with Chesed. That is terrible handwriting. I got my report cards from when I was a kid in school, showed up a few years ago, and I was reading through them, and at least like the first 3 or 4 years, maybe more, almost, there's like the boxes that they check, and then there's a comment room for the teacher to make a comment at the end. And every semester, every year was almost word for word identical for almost every subject. Oh, I don't know about every subject, but was, that my performance was fine and I need to work on my handwriting. And that hasn't changed. So Avraham Avinu is associated with Chesed. Generally, Chesed we translate as kindness. You know what, let me move that a little closer, move both of those a bit closer because I might want to put some more in here. Yitzchak is Gvura. Let's call it strength. That's the most literal translation of the word probably. And Yaakov is Tiferes, which literally is beauty. Also, Rachamim, mercy. And the relationship between Tiferes and Rachamim, beauty and mercy, is that, or it's particularly Tiferes in contrast to Chesed and Gvura, there is you can have, if you're going to pick a color, let's say, there are lots of beautiful colors. There are lots of colors that are stunningly gorgeous. It doesn't matter how beautiful a color is. It can only be as beautiful as it is. Now, that doesn't sound like it's saying much, like duh. The point where this is going is the moment you start to combine different colors and you create contrast and you have relationships between contrasting colors, the range of beauty that you can create has just become infinite, effectively. The amount of beauty that is possible when we are taking things that are different, especially if they're opposite, if they're contrasting, right, in colors. There's complementary colors are defined as being 180 degrees apart on the color wheel. Blues and oranges, for example. So when you take two things that are contrasting, if we bring them together correctly, the beauty that we can achieve it opens up a whole new world of beauty. That's why Yaakov, and what's Rachamim? Rachamim is mercy. Mercy isn't just being kind. Avraham Avinu just sees good everywhere. Everything's an opportunity for good. Yitzchak is strong and demanding. Yaakov, what's mercy? Mercy is a combination of both. Mercy is, there is a degree of demandingness here. I understand what's going on. I'm well aware of what justice would be. I'm well aware of the fact that this person doesn't necessarily demand everything to be good or deserve for everything to just be rainbows and candy corns. That being said, combined with that strength, I'm also going to bring in some kindness and say, you know what? Despite that, I'm going to behave with a kindness that maybe is not necessarily just. So Rachamim, mercy, inherently combines the chesed and the gvura. I was going to say the right and the left because figuratively these are associated with. It says in Tikkunei Zohar, chesed droya yamina. Chesed is the right arm, the right upper limb. Gvura droya smala. Gvura is the left upper limb. Tiferes gufa. Tiferes is the body. Meaning chesed's on the right. And when we see the diagrams of spheres, generally we have chesed on the right, gvura on the left, and tiferes in the center. Now, center, this is just important to understand or to be aware. Center can be neutral or a lack of being either right or left. Right? If you have water that is room temperature, ambient, you stick it in, you stick your finger in the water, you don't hardly even feel it because it feels almost the same as the air. That water is not warmer than room temperature and it is not colder than room temperature. It's neutral. This center, Yaakov, is not neutral. It's net neutral. Right? There's a big difference. What would be the difference? The difference is net neutral is a result of or it could be, because absolute neutral is also net neutral. But a net neutral that's not absolute neutral means there's not just nothing here. Yaakov is not vanilla. There is strength, kindness, and there is strength. Vanilla is a generic term for neutral. There is chesed and there is gvura. There is right and left. There is kindness and strength, giving and demanding in balanced proportion so that the net place that it aligns is in the center because there is equal pull or weight to both sides. So Yaakov Avinu Tiferes is net center. It's not neutral with a lack of right or left. Right? Which means inherently there's a lot more complexity in the center, which is net center because it combines right and left in that perfect balance. There's a lot more complexity in that than in just being on the right or just being on the left. Complexity comes with beauty when it's done right. Right? If you just take like all the colors and just dump them on a canvas, it's not necessarily going to look beautiful. But if you use contrasting colors skillfully, you can create extraordinary beauty. That's Yaakov, that's Tiferes, that's net center. So we're going to focus now on Avram and Yitzchak. Kindness and strength. Kindness and strength are, let's say, more or less translations of Chesed and Gvura. They are, in a sense, perhaps metaphors, not really metaphors, but they are the equivalent that we are familiar with for what they actually refer to. You know what? Let's not overcomplicate things. Avram Avinu is known for being kind. What did Avram Avinu do? He gave. First of all, with food and shelter. He had a tent that was open on all four sides. The thing that made him the happiest was when people were wandering in the middle of the desert and then they came and he could feed them and give them drink and let them to wash up and rest. That was his favorite thing, to give to people. Giving, 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 giving. That's kindness. You hold out a cup, Avram pours water into your cup. That's kindness. It's giving. It's the direction is from the giver to the receiver. That's the direction of movement. Recipient would be a better word. That's the direction of movement when one is being kind. The giver is giving to the recipient. Gvura, strength, is often misunderstood as being mean. Yitzchak Avinu, we don't, associate him with being mean, with being nasty. Now, yes, people who Gvura, a person can be strong and that strength can come across as being severe, mean, intolerant, etc. But that's not what we're talking about here at all. And the evidence of this, perhaps, or another way of illustrating this or bringing it out, is that Gvura, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, these are midos, these are, in their original form, characteristics or attributes of Hashem, of the Creator, of God. Hashem is not nasty. Hashem is not mean. Gvura doesn't mean mean or nasty. Gvura is strength. I think maybe the right word for it would be demanding. You could have two teachers, each of whom teaches in a classroom, each of whom cares a lot about their students and cares about their students' growth and development and learning and all the things. One of those teachers has a style of chesed, which is teach, give information, give resources, make things available, give. That's chesed. You could have another teacher who cares in the same measure about the students. Their approach is very different. It's somewhat opposite, which is gvura, which is demanding. That means that when there is something that this teacher wants the student to learn, they don't just give it to the student, they'll challenge the student. Maybe they'll ask the student, or let's say it originates from a question. One student asks the teacher a question and the teacher gives the answer and gives a beautiful, thorough explanation and answers the question in depth, and it's amazing. That's chesed. Student asks the other teacher, the gvura teacher, a question, and the teacher says, that's a great question. Where do you think you could start looking to find an answer? And the student might think and come up with a suggestion. If not, the teacher might say, go home, think about where you can look, and come back and let's discuss. Or think about where you can look, then go look into that source, see what you find, and then come back and let's discuss. And then they come back, and then the teacher asks more questions. And the teacher here is not handing out anything. What's the teacher doing? The teacher is raising up the student, bringing the student up, demanding that the student move, in a sense, toward the teacher. So the direction of movement in Gvura is recipient movement from the recipient towards the giver, let's call it, right? They're not giving, but they are giving. They're giving skills. They're giving all kinds of things. And an example in which, and now the teacher who is the Gvura teacher, the teacher who is demanding, it's almost certainly per amount of time that they spend, for the amount of time that, let's say that it takes a week for this student to get to the answer to the question. The Chesed teacher in a week has answered 30 questions. So in the Chesed classroom, there is a much larger volume of learning that's happening. In the Gvura classroom, there's a much smaller volume of learning that's happening, but a much greater depth. Right? A student, let's say, who's in both classrooms, 20 years down the line, which class are they more likely going to have memories from and actually retain information from? The Gvura class, for sure, is most likely for most people to retain more. It's not necessarily, and I guess the big thing here is the direction of movement. And it's important to understand that Gvura doesn't mean not, it does mean not giving as much. But it doesn't mean withholding from a place of not wanting to give or being mean. It's withholding from a place of encouraging growth. And withholding in that way has to be done in a way that's very calculated and very intentional, because just withholding doesn't encourage growth. Withholding done in the right way, with the right tact and with the right support, etc., encourages growth. And there are advantages to both. Avram Avinu, Chesed, Avram Avinu could give to anyone. Right? The range of students who are going to be able to learn in the Chesed classroom is the set of people who can fit in the classroom. Everybody can learn. If the teacher explains things well, anybody can show up and anybody's going to learn and receive information and walk out having gained. Anyone who came to Avram Avinu's tent thirsty got water. Anyone who came hungry got fed. Anyone who came tired got rest. Because it's just giving. If you're giving, you can give to anyone. It's very interesting, the references in the Chumash, in the Torah, in the stories of Avram and Yitzchak in the Torah, where we see the association with Chesed and Gvura. Chesed, the association between Chesed, kindness, and Avram is obvious. We see that everywhere. But Avram Avinu, his whole life was giving, was sharing, was teaching, he was a person who loved to give. We don't really have any explicit references to Yitzchak being this Gvura, this demanding and lifting people up towards him. We do have a very strong metaphor for it, which is that Yitzchak, we have these random stories about Yitzchak digging wells. It's like so random. It's like, I can guarantee you Yitzchak did lots of things that the Torah doesn't tell us that he did. Why does it tell us about his wells? It's like, what is so important about the wells? And the answer is, the well is a metaphor for Yitzchak's Gvura. What's a well? If someone's thirsty, you can pour water into their cup and they will drink, or they can dig a well and they can drink. Pouring water into the cup is chesed. That's Avram Avinu. You're thirsty, I give you water. Yitzchak says, you're thirsty? Okay, you know what? There's water. There's plenty of water available. 10 feet down, start digging. Right now, when we dig a well and we have water, we didn't create water, we didn't provide water, we didn't bring any new water. The water was there the whole time. What was the issue? The water was covered with feet and feet of dirt and rocks and mud and who knows what. Of fossils and decomposed, who knows, it could be anything. So there's a lot of stuff in the way between us and the water. And it's stuff that, like, frankly, I'm not really interested in getting my hands elbow deep into it, scraping it out if I don't have a shovel. But I'm thirsty, I got to drink. That's where the water is. This is in the way. You dig. This is Gvura. Gvura is, the water is there. There's something in the way, so we need to remove it. And then all of a sudden, the water comes to the surface and now you can drink. And what happens once you dug a well? Once you dug a well, you don't have to go ask anyone else for water anymore. Because the water that already exists is now available. This is Yitzchak encouraging people to find what is inside of themselves and bring it up. Reveal it, bring it to the surface. That's what the second teacher does. The second teacher is not giving anything. They're encouraging and leading the student on to develop their own capacity to find answers. Just like a well. Now, when it comes to what we are here for ultimately, which is to bring godliness into the world through Torah and mitzvahs, to integrate divinity into the material world, into the things we interact with, etc. There are different components to the work of doing that. There are different parts of our lives in which we do it. In different parts of our lives, different components, different tools, different approaches are going to be used. When it comes to learning Torah, to davening, to lighting Shabbos candles, putting on tefillin, that's like Avram. It's that when you learn Torah, the Torah is actually, water is a metaphor for Torah. Why? One of the reasons is because water, the nature of water is that it will always descend to the lowest altitude that it can find. Right? If you pour water, a cup of water at the top of the mountain, it's going to go straight down. It's going to find the steepest slope and it's going to go straight down until it can't go down anymore. And just when you think it can't go down anymore, it's going to find a way through very often. Right? Water gets mineralized by slowly seeping through rocks and who knows what. And that is what Torah is. Torah is pure absolute divinity that has found its way down into information. When we learn Torah, that is the water in a cup. When we learn Torah, the Torah itself just is divinity and radiates divinity. That's like the chesed. When we're davening, there are parts of davening, so davening can be both. But when we're lighting Shabbos candles, when we're putting on tefillin, the light is radiating. That's the chesed. The Gvura, I want to go back. I just realized we touched on it, but I want to maybe elaborate a little more on the differences between Chesed and Gvura, Avram and Yitzchak. Each one of them does have something that the other one doesn't have. Right? And let's say when it comes to the teachers, and we started this, but I didn't really finish it up, anyone can go into Avram Avinu's class, into the class where the teacher gives, and can learn and come out better informed. When it comes to Yitzchak's class, to the Gvura class room, not everybody is going to not everybody has the capacity to do research to the same degree. Not everybody is going to be able to actually just at a level of let's say, academic ability, have the talent necessary to do the research the way that this teacher is going to push them to do it. And there might be other things also that are going to get in the way, circumstantial things, behavioral things that could get in the way of a student being able to really excel in this class, or not so much excel, but a student being able to receive from this teacher. But when a student does receive from this teacher, they come out a different person, they come out changed. Not every place is able to be a well. But a place that has water under the ground, if we dig and get down to the water, there will be a well and the well will be there. We've changed this place. It's now a well. It is now a source of water where before it was just dead earth. There is a very big and important part of our work here, which is not just shining light. Shining light is important and it's a very big part of the picture. But if we just shine light, if we just pour water, we're going to have to be pouring water forever. Right? People who come to Avraham Avinu for water, they hold out their cup, he fills it with water, they drink. Maybe they drink 3 or 4 cups because they were really thirsty, or 10. And then a few hours later, that hydration has run its course and they need more water and they need to come back again. And when that runs out, they need to come back again. And when that runs out, they need to come back again. There is a degree to which we can just learn Torah and do mitzvahs and shine the light and it will bring godliness in and it will elevate us and lift us up. But it's only going to lift us up for as long as we're learning it and as long as that impact lasts. And then that impact wears off to a degree. Now, it's important here to clarify. The effect of learning Torah never goes away. The effect of doing a mitzvah never goes away. The spiritual impact is permanent. And permanent in a sense, not just that it continues within time, but it's beyond time. So time doesn't affect it at all. That being said, in terms of the illuminating effect on, let's say, our experience, on the way that we feel, there's a limit to how long that will last. When we shine light into the world, we could shine light into the world and the world can be bright as a result, and we can shine light 24/7 and the world can be bright 24/7. But there isn't brightness in the world itself. We are just shining light to provide brightness. We haven't, now when we say, if we turn on the light switch here and now there's light in the room, most of us would generally say, yes, this room is now a brighter place. But the room itself isn't a brighter place. Our experience of the room is a brighter place. The reality of being in this room now is that the experience is brighter because the lights are on, but the brightness isn't coming from the room. It's coming from the lights, which are shining brightness into the room. If you want to change the room, right, especially imagine, and a very simple illustration of this is if you have a room that has like charcoal gray walls and floor and ceiling, you put really bright lights on, it's never going to feel really bright in that room. I mean, the light that comes directly from the lights into your eyes might be bright, but the room's never going to look or feel bright. If you go and now paint the walls to be let's say a bright white, go to the opposite extreme, you could have lights that are a fraction as bright as the lights used to be, and the room's going to be way brighter. Why? Because the room itself is a brighter place. You don't need to introduce as much light to have a bright experience because the room itself has become brighter. And this is the work of Yitzchak. Instead of just giving water and giving water and giving water, Yitzchak says, there's water under the ground, there's water here. Let's dig. Yeah, you know what? You want to get that water, you've got to dig through the mud, through the muck, through the who knows what, through the rocks and through the decomposing tissue and whatever's there. You've got to dig through all of that. And it's messy and maybe it's a bit gross and it's uncomfortable and it might be disturbing, but you do that work, you get to the water, and now you have a well. You've changed the circumstances. You've changed the environment. You've gone from barren land to well with the endless source of water. And in our work to illuminate the world, whether this is inside of ourselves, whether this is with other people, whether it's with society, whether it's with whatever it might be, there is the work that is just shining light, introducing light, giving chesed. And then there is the work of gvura, of demanding, of lifting things up. And the way you lift something up, the way that you get water to come to the surface is not by pouring water. It's by digging till you get to the water source and then it will come up. If we want to actually not just fill the world with external light that we have introduced into it, but actually make the world itself into a more divine entity, we have to get into the world itself and work with the world, in the world, on the world. If we want to make ourselves a well, if we want to not just have to bring water in, but become a source of water, bring up the water that's already inside, it's just buried deep down. If we want to bring out the light and the potential that we have inside, just that it's buried, then you know what we have to do? We have to start digging. This means not being afraid of interacting with the less pretty parts of the world. Not being afraid of interacting with and working on the less pretty part of ourselves. Not being afraid of getting our hands dirty. And ultimately, this is what Hashem, this is the work that really, really fulfills Hashem's desire for the world. Hashem created the world so it should be a dira b'tachtonim, a dwelling place for Hashem in this world. We should have divinity integrated into this world. What does Hashem need us for? Hashem could just make the world and just show up and radiate, and the world will be a dwelling place for Hashem. It's kind of like, if someone hires a contractor to build a house, let's say, and now the house is built and they want to move in, and they're like, okay, so can you go inside, attach a rope to my waist, go inside and pull me into the house? It's like, you could just walk in. What do you need someone to pull you into the house for? What are you doing? Right? If a person did that, people would probably think they were kind of weird, and they'd probably be right. So that's essentially what Hashem is doing. Hashem created this. Hashem has a desire for this world to be a dwelling place for Him. So it's like, okay, guys, bring me in. It's like, well, you could just show up. What is this? And the answer is when the Midrash says Hashem wanted there to be a dwelling place for Him, b'tachtonim, in the lower reality, in this physical, tangible world, the b'tachtonim, in, doesn't just mean that this is the geographical location. Hashem could show up here and He would be here. That's not what it means. Right? There's an expression people say, someone will invite someone into the house and come in and tell them, the expression, what do they say? Make yourself at home. What does make yourself at home mean? It means you are in this house now. You are in this environment. You're in this home. But it's not your home, and the fact is that the way that we are present in our own home is generally different to the way that we are present anywhere else. There's an extent to which we are really here, deeply present. Right? People, if you get to see someone in their natural environment, in their home, you will often see a side of them that you won't see anywhere else. Because we're deeply present, we're more comfortable, we're more open.
Correctly, an example of that would be to light candles, to wrap tefillin, to do the mitzvahs that we're told to do. But we're also here to start digging and not be afraid of the less pretty parts. So what would be a practical example, the practical example of bringing the light is doing the mitzvah?
Yeah, so we're going to get to that. I know I've been a little bit all over the place and back and forth this morning, but... And thank you for asking, because knowing me, I could easily just forget to come back to that, or get lost in a tangent till the end of class. So, thank you.
Fascinating, yes.
So, when we tell someone to make themselves at home, they're not going to be actually here. It's not like we're saying, oh, you only had one foot in. Figuratively, this is what we're saying. But literally, we're not saying, well, before, there's only half of you in the door. Now, all of you comes in the door. That's not what it means. Figuratively, that is what it means, which is what? That until now, all of you was here, but you weren't here. You weren't in this space the way that one could potentially be in this space. We want you to really be here. Right? Hashem is everywhere. What does it mean to make Hashem a dwelling place in this world? Right? Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. They should have written on my report also, I can't sing. Hashem is everywhere. What do you mean we're bringing Hashem here? Hashem is here. Hashem was here before here existed. So what does it mean we're bringing Hashem here? The answer is, it's not bringing Hashem into this geographical location. It's integrating Hashem into the fabric and the experience of the world. And the only way to do that is by means of a worldly process. If Hashem just shows up, yeah, He's here, but He's not really in the world. He has imposed Himself on the world. Yes, He's here in the world geographically, but He's not part of the world. For divinity to really become a truly, genuinely integrated part of the world, it has to be integrated by means of real worldly processes. That's why we have mitzvahs, which are physical actions that we do. Hashem wants to be part of the world. Not just here, but part of it. Right? If someone joins, let's say, a group, a class, whatever it is, a friend group, and they're kind of there, but they don't feel very much a part of it, what do you do to make them feel a part of it? You get them involved in the activities. You integrate them into what's happening. That's what makes someone be a part of it, not just being in the room. And the more worldly the process is, the deeper the integration, the more Hashem is in this world, integrated into the world itself, because the integration happened through means of a very real worldly process. Which means, and the irony here is, that the more worldly the process is, the greater the extent to which the divinity gets integrated, and the more divine the result. The more divine the world will be as a result, because the more deeply integrated the divinity is. Now, let's say, for example, the digging into the mud to bring out the water might still be lighting Shabbos candles or doing tefillin, but perhaps in a context where this is really, really difficult for someone, where there are a lot of barriers in the way, where they have a very hard time with it. And they don't shy away from that, and they go into that mud and they dig through the mud to bring out the water. This is Yitzchak. The water was there the whole time, but they weren't afraid to get their hands dirty and to dig through that mud. And when they did that, now the water came up. The more we can have the courage and the fortitude and the strength and the commitment to not be afraid of digging into the mud to bring out the water that is there and was there the whole time. It was just buried between feet and feet of dirt and mud and who knows what. The more we can dig down, the more we're going to bring up water. And the more what used to be desert sand, maybe, is now going to be a well. It's going to be a place that people from all around can travel to come get water. Why? Because we dug through the mud. And we turned desert into a water source. This is real dira b'tachtonim. This is making a dwelling place for divinity in the tachtonim itself, in the lower world. Not just geographically, but in the world itself, in the tangibleness of it, in the material of it, in the lowness of it. By getting into that material and into that lowness and into that darkness and into that mud and into that dirt and not being afraid to do that, that's how you get wells. That's how we make the mud itself into divine mud. The mud was created for a reason. The dirt, the sand was created for a reason. And with a purpose, and in fulfilling its purpose, we have uncovered the divinity that was always there. And if that purpose was to create a barrier so that we would have the opportunity to dig, then the way that we reveal its purpose and bring up the water is by digging. This is Yitzchak. Now, of course, there's a time and a place for pouring water. And Avram's work is very important, and learning Torah is very important, not just because of the challenge and the work. If someone just loves learning Torah, if someone likes learning Torah more than I like eating ice cream, it's still important and valuable and invaluable for them to learn Torah, and amazing, and they should do it a lot. It's not, and this is Avram Avinu, it's just pouring the water. It's not just pouring water. There's no just here. This is incredibly important and valuable. Right? And if someone is like dehydrated and hallucinating and on the brink of dying because they're so dehydrated, and a person says, here's a shovel, start digging, this is not the time and place. Pour the person some water and pour them some more water and probably give them some electrolytes, etc. But the pouring and the chesed is a very important part of this picture, and it's always an important part of the picture, not just in extreme circumstances. But just the chesed without the gvura, we're missing the real depth of transformation, of bringing the light into the negative. Not negative, but into the mud, into the challenges, into the dirt. Mud, challenges, and dirt are all not negative. That's why I retracted that word.
Is missing the what? Just the Hesed without the Gabor is missing the...
It's going to be missing the transformation. And ultimately, Chesed is very important, but the depth of achievement through Gvura is far greater. And because the depth of achievement and the depth of integration and the transformation is so much greater, this is where we see a whole different quality of divinity that gets integrated. With Chesed, with pouring, Avram was pouring water for people. He was giving them the water that he had. Trying to think of a clearer way to illustrate this. No, let's go here. You know, if you, let's say, decided that you wanted to make Bill Gates' day, or Elon Musk's day, or, you know, pick your random 300 billionaire, and you wanted to really excite them. You wanted to buy them a gift that's going to really make their day. The thing that's going to make their day about the gift is not the price, because they can buy anything they want, literally without batting an eyelid. Well, not literally, because they might have to blink, but it costs them nothing to buy anything, effectively. So what do you have to do if you want to buy them a gift that's really going to make their day? You need to find something novel, something different, something unique. Something that wasn't just available for them to go and swipe their credit card or, you know, tap their phone. Maybe it's something that's really hard to get and money can't buy. Or maybe it's something, a new idea that you came up with that never existed before, but something novel and different, not just something that's worth a lot of money. When something's novel, something's different, something's unique, something's special, there's a value in that is beyond, it's not just a different quantity. It's not a quantitative difference in value. It's not just, this is worth even more. It's a different quality. It's a different category of value. For the person for whom $200 billion doesn't mean anything, if you can give them something that's new, something that's novel, something that's a transformation, something that they never thought of, that's going to be interesting and exciting. It's a whole different category. Chesed is just shining more of what's already there. It's important and beautiful. This is not to say this is not important and infinitely valuable. The light that comes from Torah and mitzvahs is infinitely valuable. But when we're doing Torah and mitzvahs in a way that gets our hands dirty and we're digging through the mud, and we're not just pouring water, we're digging a well to bring up the water that's there and it's buried deep down, the place that this touches in Hashem, the excitement and the interest and the value, value is the wrong word, it's not, but for Hashem, is in a whole different category. It's a whole different ballgame. And what happens when someone buys you a gift that touches you really deeply versus someone buys you a gift that's nice? Right? I mean, it was in the words, it touches you very deeply. And that person is likely to feel from you reciprocation from a much deeper place inside. Even if it's just in the thank you that you say to that person who gives you a gift that touches you deeply, it's a thank you that comes from deep inside. And they will feel it in your voice, they will see it in your face and in your eyes. When we dig, when we transform, when we bring out things that are not visible, when we bring up that which is buried deep, when we do gvura, this is what Hashem really wanted, integration into the mud. This is way more interesting and exciting to Hashem. And when something's way more interesting and exciting to Hashem, the place that it draws from within Hashem is at a different kind of depth. This is why Yitzchak's name is Yitzchak, tzchok, laughter. When do we laugh? We laugh when something's unexpected, when a good punchline catches you off guard, it comes out of left field. Yitzchak is doing the unexpected. He's doing the impossible, not the impossible, but the not simple and not obvious. That's why his name is laughter. And what that draws from Hashem, this is why laughter is such good medicine. What that draws from Hashem is from deep down inside. And this is why Yitzchak had to be conceived post-circumcision. Because the divinity that we draw into the world through Gvura, through not being afraid of getting into the mud, is in a different category to the divinity we bring into the world just through shining light. And this is a light that Avram Avinu wasn't ready to bring into the world. It had to be Kiddush Yedid Mibet, and it had to be Yitzchak born conceived post-circumcision to be able to touch that light and bring it into the world. And this is what all of us are here for. And the message here to us is, if you feel like you're in the mud, that doesn't mean something's wrong. The most value we can provide for Hashem, the deepest place that we can reach in Hashem, is when we're not afraid to dig through the mud to get to the water that's hiding underneath it. And in the story of Yitzchak, he dug wells and then they were filled up, and he dug wells and then they were taken away. And what did he do? He dug more wells. We can dig and dig and dig and we feel like we finally got there, and then what happens? Someone just comes, or somehow, one way or another, it gets filled up and all the mud is back to square one. It doesn't mean that the work was cancelled. Whatever we did, and it's still the work and the impact is there. It just means that we got to dig again, and that sometimes that's part of the journey, is to dig them again. And then sometimes the wells get filled up, and sometimes the territory gets taken away. There's nothing wrong with digging wells again and digging wells again and digging wells again. And what we achieve through doing this is something that Avraham Avinu himself couldn't achieve. In short, don't be afraid of your mud. Have a good week.